Ed Sheeran and his team have joined forces with HeadRush to bring us the brand new Sheeran Loopers. I've been lucky enough to get my hands on a Looper Plus. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the pedal, and I'm going to show you a couple of practical ways to use it, or at least a couple of ways that I would go about using it in a live situation. Let's go. Hey, hope you're all doing well. Before we get into this, a big thank you and shout out to the team at Belfield Music for sending me the Looper Plus to review for everyone on the channel. They've been courteous enough to supply a promo code to give you a couple of dollars off if you purchase through the store. But they're not telling me what to say on this pedal. This is my genuine opinions and thoughts, and I don't get to keep this. It has to go back. So this is obviously the Sheeran Looper, and that is a Boss RC500. So obviously the Sheeran Looper is a bit bigger than the RC500, and I'll tell you what, it definitely weighs more. This thing is built like a tank. Instead of 3 buttons, it only has the 2. However, this encoder can also be used as an extra button. You can reach across and press it quite easily with the toe of your shoe or your big toe if that's what you like to do. The screen on the Sheeran Looper is a little bit bigger and probably a little bit more pleasing to look at as well. The ins and outs are pretty straightforward. You've got a mic input, you've got a stereo guitar input and a stereo output from the Looper. This is for an external foot switch. You've got a Midi in and a USB in. I really am quite fond of the feet on the bottom of that. They are fantastic. They're big, they're grippy, and it's not going to slide around on stage. How good is that? It is, of course, battery powered if you are so inclined, which I am not, and it does come with an adapter. This is what happens when you rub it the right way and turn it on. Takes a moment. And there we go. These pedals, at first, I thought, how's that gonna go? But quite seriously, these pedals are freaking amazing. They're huge. You're not gonna miss it. They feel good when you press them. They're not noisy. I have no complaints about those pedals whatsoever. Fantastic. Simple and easy in terms of volumes. You turn these and these meters, they respond accordingly. Your main output, the microphone input, and the instrument input. Easy, just make sure things don't go into the red and you're good to go. So like I said, this encoder can be used as a third pedal. You just have to go in and set it up. It's really quite simple, but it also operates as the menu. Hold it down, it takes you into the menu where you can go through fade, reverse, speed, save, load, delete, logic. Logic is the record and playback mode. You've got 4 different modes in here. I'll discuss those in a moment. Assign, which is relevant to this button and the foot switches, MIDI, output, USB, and about. So the one thing I found most interesting is, what do you see when you look at that? You see Sheeran Looper Plus. Didn't this get worked on by HeadRush? If you turn it around, over here in the back corner, powered by HeadRush. That just tells me Ed Sheeran, he'd be a very smart man. Even the website, they've created a whole new website. It's called SheeranLoopers.com. That's not anything to do with HeadRush. However, it says tech support, contact HeadRush. If anyone's dealt with HeadRush tech support, good luck. Right, so that is the boring stuff. How would I go about using this in a gig situation? When I gig doing my cover things to earn the big bucks, I use an old school RC300 and I have a BeatBuddy. Now in that situation, the RC300 is the master. It controls the BeatBuddy. It starts, it stops, it controls the tempo, it's in charge. The RC300 is of course quite old, and it definitely has its limitations, but I make it work. So what I'm looking for in a looper is essentially a better RC300. Now the BeatBuddy does work with this. The great thing about it is that it has a MIDI in. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a MIDI out, which means that the BeatBuddy has to be in charge. This can receive a MIDI clock and it will follow the loop and it will follow the tempo from the BeatBuddy, which is awesome. However, point number 3, while recording the first layer, if you switch to playback or stop the recording, the loop endpoint will automatically be moved to the last received MIDI clock downbeat or next MIDI clock downbeat, whichever is closer. That was probably the trickiest part to get my head around. On the RC300 and even on my Boss RC500, if you're using an external clock or a tempo, it maps to a bar. So you've got 1, 2, 3, you can hit it on 3 and it will close out the loop at the end of the bar. However, in this instance, it's only listening to the MIDI clock downbeat, not the bar. So if you hit it on 3, your loop's gonna be closed on 3, which means it's either going to start late or it's going to end early. Doesn't work. Took my brain a minute to get around it. However, you press on 1, you close the loop at the right point, and it matches perfectly. So that's the first demo. I'm going to show you guys how I would use my old setup with this guy. Let's do it. So there you go, you can see that it works totally fine. Now, of course, if you're going to steal my mashup, at least just say thanks, Dave, every time you do it. What I really do like about using the BeatBuddy in charge is that I can still stop and mute this entire thing and the beat's going to keep playing. I just got to remember to press this in time. So if you press play in the middle of a bar, it's going to start in the middle of the bar. So you have to perform like you're playing. That's kind of frustrating to get your head around, but it works. It's definitely doable. This has 128 savable slots and up to 6 hours of savable time that you can loop into it, which is already better than my current setup. So that performance was done in multi-mode, meaning that each loop is going to work together, meaning if you've got 4 bars on loop A, you automatically get 4 bars on loop B. An example of that, recording loop A, let's make it 2, 3, 4 seconds, close the loop out, take it to the loop B. As soon as you press record, we're in and we're recording loop B, and it goes straight back to the start into overdub mode. Interesting to note that this stop button and play button are all start, all stop. You got 2 options. You can either assign something to the encoder, or you can use an external foot switch. Ignore the tuner across the top. I use this for something else. In this situation, I want to use the 2. Of course, use the dual input on the back, and you need to use a TRS cable, and quite simply plug it into the foot switch slot. So how I've got this set up, if I press play on both, this button here selects the track for me. You can see it cycling through, and this button here mutes the current track that it is on. So I want to pause that one, then I'm back in, back out, back in, go to loop B, mute that one, stop that, my BeatBuddy's still going, dooka-dooka-ba, doo-doo-doo-boo, and it's back in again, easy peasy. Now I've assigned this button here to be an all clear. Simple touch there, cleared both loops. If you didn't have an all clear, unfortunately what you need to do there is stop, and then hold, double tap to take it to A, stop and clear, which is total stuff around, so hence all clear on one simple touch. I do really like that you've got this progress bar across the top for the loop. It shows you how long the loop is. I don't really see the point of having a second value for the loop. I don't think it really matters that your loop's going to be 7, 25 or however many seconds long. I'd prefer to see the beats, don't you think? Hopefully they fix that one in an upcoming update. If you're going to be using an external MIDI clock such as the BeatBuddy, hold this button to come into the menu, scroll across to MIDI, select the source that you want, whether it be USB or 1/8, channel doesn't matter. Clock, just turn that on, select, and you'll see now this little MIDI icon has shown up here, which means that it's ready to receive MIDI. Now it's red completely now because it's not receiving a clock. And if I press record, it's not recording because it's waiting to have that MIDI clock come in. So totally usable with a BeatBuddy if you're a BeatBuddy user, which is mad. It's different to how I normally do it, having the looper in charge. So it was a bit of an adjustment trying to use the BeatBuddy as the main thing, but it still worked and it was pretty good. Cool, so that is of course only one way of doing things. Personally though, I do think this is much better if you just treat it like a standalone looper, just like Ed does. I mean, that's the whole point. It's the Sheeran Looper, it's his approach to looping in a pedal. So in this next performance, I used sync mode, which means that each loop is still gonna be in sync together. However, you can have separate lengths. So how I start it is by using loop B and creating a shorter loop for the drum beat, and then I go back to loop A and I loop the music and go from there. So in this mode, so you need to have the clock off now, which it is. Go to mode, sync, select. Let's just show you how I did it in the video. We press play, 2, 3, 4. That loop is done. Close that, come back to A now, and 3, 4, and bang. So let's do double the length. Oh, let's do triple the length. So it needs to be about 8 seconds, bang. There we go, and they are now in sync. Whatever beat I did on loop B is going to be in time to the riff in loop A, assuming you can play in time. Now I know that seems really simple, but that's the best way to do it, in my opinion. I think once I added in the BeatBuddy, I had to do more, I had to think more, it looks a bit more fancy and I'm tapping my feet a lot more, but end of the day, if you're going to go to a pub or to a restaurant and play some loops and play an acoustic guitar and have a sing, this is the way to go. Which brings me to another point about the pedal and a big difference between this and the Boss RC500. This doesn't have built-in effects. Yes, you can do the fade and you can do the reverse, but you don't have any input effects. You can't put reverb, you can't put delay, you can't put like an octave for bass lines on your voice. There's also no drum beat, there's no metronome, there's nothing to keep in time to, which I kind of missed that a little bit. I like on the RC500 that you can bring in, say, a hi-hat and use that as your hi-hat, then loop the rest of the stuff on the acoustic guitar. This is just simple 2-track looper, which you still actually have to add a second pedal to. It's not that big a deal, just interesting, if anything. And this last performance, I'm gonna be using song mode, which means you've got part A, part 2, which means loop A is gonna stop as soon as you bring in loop B, and vice versa.
Sometimes I feel the fear of uncertainty still clear, and I can't help but ask myself how much I'll let the fear take the wheel and steer. Surely before it seems to have a vague, haunted mass appeal. Lately I'm beginning to find that I should
So again, in this mode, we come across to song mode. So start recording a loop, recording section A. It is going to be this many seconds long. Close the loop. Then we can select across to B. It doesn't start when you select, it just gets across there ready to go. Now you'll see it records as soon as I press. It didn't wait for the end of the loop. It started recording as soon as I pressed it. Overdub. Now again, stop is going to stop everything, which means that you do need to select your other button here to be able to cycle between your loops and then trigger that to play. Now I don't think it's such a bad idea that it comes in as soon as you press it. I would assumed it would wait till the end of the loop before coming in. However, it does not. It just means that you've got to be in time and do it now. It's ready to go, which is not so bad, I suppose. Some sections aren't always the same. You know, verse 3 is this long instead of this long. That's okay. The only one I didn't cover in the modes is the single mode, which is the default, and that is just a simple single loop, record, overdub, play, and stop. So there we have it. That is the Sheeran Looper Plus. What do you think? Like I said, I definitely think this is a very good standalone looper. Have your effects elsewhere on a different device, which is how I approach things anyway. I think too much all-in-one becomes too much all-in-one. This is a looper. That's it. It's a looper. Better way to approach it sometimes. I could definitely see myself using this on the weekends when I go and do my simple acoustic shows. This is more or less exactly how I do it on the Boss RC500 anyway. And again, these pedals are just next level good. This is fantastic. Absolute win, my favorite thing about it. Big thank you again to the team at Battlefield Music for sending it up and letting me review it on the channel. You guys are the bomb. If you are thinking about buying one, check out through the link below. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. I'll see you next time.